Hey Celtics Nation, it's been a wild ride lately, and we're here to break down everything that's going on with Boston. The way this team has been moving, every single game feels like it could swing the narrative in a completely different direction. Take the recent match against the Clippers, for instance. One loss, and suddenly the conversation shifts to frustration and doubt. One win, and it's all progress and hope. That's the roller coaster life of following a team that's constantly in the spotlight, especially when expectations are high and every small play is scrutinized. It's fascinating to watch, and honestly, it's exactly what makes this journey so compelling. You start to realize that a game isn't just about the final score. It's about the nuances, the tiny moments that could have gone either way and end up shaping the story in major ways. Yesterday's game really felt like a perfect snapshot of what the Celtics are capable of, good and bad. You saw Jalen and Derek and Peyton carrying the load offensively, while the bigs at the center position tried to anchor the defense and contribute wherever they could. Jordan Walsh and Nimishkata stepped into their roles and produced when needed, and even though the bench remains a bit of a question mark, the team as a whole showed flashes of the archetype we've come to expect. It's messy sometimes, sure, but there's a pattern emerging. This is a team that's still finding its rhythm, still building cohesion, and in the midst of a results-driven league, those incremental improvements matter a lot more than people often give them credit for. One of the most fascinating parts of following these games is seeing how the tiniest differences can completely reshape the perception of a team. A missed free throw, a three that barely swishes through the net, a single defensive rotation executed differently. Suddenly, everything changes in the narrative, even if the rest of the game played out exactly the same. Just imagine if Jordan Walsh had missed one of those critical free throws, or if Harden's shot had clanked off the rim. Fans would be talking about a crushing loss, and every evaluation would shift. But that didn't happen. Instead, those moments went Boston's way, and now we're talking about growth, potential, and incremental success. That's why understanding the process behind these games is so important. It's easy to get lost in the results-driven lens of wins and losses, but the reality is that building a strong, competitive team is all about the details. The plays that don't always make the highlight reel, but define how the team functions day in and day out. Perspective is key, and when you start looking at the Celtics through that lens, the story becomes far richer and more nuanced than a simple win-loss record. Now, let's talk about some of the individual contributions that often fly under the radar. Nimishkata, for example, is exceeding expectations. Relative to what many thought the Celtics frontcourt would look like this season, he's been solid. He's defending well, setting effective screens, grabbing a few extra rebounds, and contributing without needing to dominate the box score. His impact isn't flashy, but it's tangible in the way it complements the stars and stabilizes the rotation. When you break down per 36-minute stats, you can see that the numbers are not astronomical, but they are consistent and process-oriented. He's growing into the role and showing that even players who start as role contributors can make a meaningful difference when they execute consistently. That's the beauty of a well-constructed team. The sum is often greater than the individual parts, and Kata exemplifies that quietly effective contribution. On the other side, there's Derek White, a player some fans have labeled as disappointing this season. But if you actually dig into the numbers and level everything per 36 minutes, a different picture emerges. Yes, his shooting percentages are down, three-point accuracy and two-point efficiency aren't where we want them, but almost every other metric is either on par with last season or slightly improved. Assists are up, steals are up, blocks are slightly higher, and turnovers are down. Defensively, he's still a force, completely transforming the team's effectiveness on that end of the floor. The narrative of disappointment doesn't hold when you consider the full scope of his contributions. It's more accurate to say he's experiencing a shooting slump, but it hasn't slowed him down from impacting games positively. He's still playing his game, defending at a high level, facilitating, and helping the team in ways that aren't always captured in flashy stats. That's resilience, and that's exactly what makes this Celtics roster so intriguing. Players who can weather slumps without letting it affect their overall performance are the glue for teams that aim for deep playoff runs. And then there's Peyton Pritchard, who is quietly improving his per-36 scoring, now slightly higher than last season, while still contributing in assists and driving to the basket more aggressively. His offensive role is evolving, and even during shooting slumps, he finds ways to add value by crashing the boards, creating for teammates, and attacking the rim. That versatility is exactly what the Celtics need from their supporting cast, because it allows the stars like Jaylen Brown to shine without the team suffering when shots aren't falling. Speaking of Jaylen, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what his season looks like. The numbers coming up show why he's having an all-NBA caliber year. And the combination of his individual brilliance with the steady process-oriented contributions from players like White, Kata, and Pritchard is what gives Boston a real chance to dominate in the Eastern Conference. It's a balance of star power and role-player efficiency, and the evolution of that mix will be critical as the season progresses. The Celtics are navigating a tricky landscape where one moment can dramatically shift perception, but the underlying process and consistent execution are what will ultimately determine their success. Every minute on the floor counts, every rebound, every defensive rotation, every pass contributes to a much larger narrative that wins and losses alone cannot capture. Watching this team grow, adapt, and respond to the highs and lows is what makes following the Celtics so thrilling, because you know that behind the results is a process that, if nurtured, can carry this team deep into the playoffs and beyond. Continuing with the Celtics' journey, it's impossible to overlook the impact of the small adjustments and incremental improvements that have started to show up across the roster. When you watch a player like Derek White, the first glance might make you think the season is off to a disappointing start because of his shooting struggles. But if you look closer, his defense remains elite, his positioning on the floor is smarter than ever, and his awareness in transition is contributing to the team's overall efficiency. He is fundamentally affecting the game in ways that don't always get the headlines. The team is actually better with him on the floor, particularly on the defensive end, where his presence alone shifts opponent strategies and forces adjustments. Even in moments where shots aren't falling, his ability to create space, make the right pass, and anticipate the opponent's next move shows that he is far from disappointing. It's just that his most visible contributions, like scoring, aren't aligning with his usual output yet, and that's a temporary narrative rather than a reflection of his actual value. Peyton Pritchard is also beginning to assert himself more confidently as a dual-threat player. While his outside shooting remains inconsistent, his ability to penetrate, draw fouls, and make plays for teammates adds a layer of unpredictability to Boston's offense. This is critical because it allows defenses to respect multiple threats at the same time, creating openings for both the stars and the supporting cast. The way Pritchard adapts to these challenges is a sign of maturation, and it reflects a larger trend in the team's development. Players are finding ways to contribute even when things aren't going perfectly. This adaptability is one of the traits that could define Boston's playoff success, because high-pressure games rarely go according to script. It's the ability to adjust in real time, to compensate for a shot not falling or a rotation being slightly off, that separates good teams from great ones. And the Celtics are starting to show that they can do this consistently, with young players stepping up to supplement the established stars and the team maintaining a cohesive identity on both ends of the court. Looking at the bigger picture, Jaylen Brown is obviously the centerpiece, and his All-NBA season is a testament to his dominance and versatility. He's carrying the scoring load, but he's also facilitating, rebounding, and defending at a level that elevates everyone around him. When you combine his production with the process-oriented contributions from players like White, Kata, and Pritchard, you start to see a team that is more than the sum of its parts. This is particularly important in the Eastern Conference, where every game feels like a chess match and small margins often decide playoff positioning. The Celtics are building resilience through these incremental wins and performance, even when the scoreboard doesn't fully reflect the effort or improvement. Each game is another step toward solidifying the rotations, testing strategies, and establishing a culture where accountability and execution coexist. Fans may fixate on results, but anyone paying attention to the process sees the gradual evolution and growth that is quietly happening behind the scenes. One of the most impressive aspects of Boston's season so far is how they are navigating these challenges without losing cohesion or confidence. Players are learning to manage moments of adversity, such as missed shots or tough defensive assignments, without letting them derail the overall team performance. This mental resilience is critical, particularly as the playoffs approach. It's the kind of quality that doesn't show up in a box score, but is vital for teams aiming for deep postseason runs. The Celtics are learning to blend their high-level talent with a disciplined approach to the fundamentals, creating a balance that allows them to compete against any opponent on any given night. This includes understanding when to push tempo, when to rely on half-court sets, and how to manage rotations to keep players fresh and engaged. It's a complex process, but the signs suggest the team is embracing it and beginning to reap the rewards. Additionally, the coaching staff deserves recognition for the way they are integrating all these moving parts. Adjustments are happening game by game, and the staff is constantly evaluating the effectiveness of lineups and individual matchups. The Celtics are in a league where one hot streak or cold shooting night can dramatically influence perception, yet the team remains focused on long-term development. The staff is prioritizing sustainable growth, making sure that younger players gain experience, stars aren't overextended, and the defensive identity remains intact. Every rotation, every substitution, and every strategic tweak is geared toward preparing the team not just for the next game, but for the playoff grind where preparation, adaptability, and execution are paramount. Another key element to consider is the chemistry on the court. While individual statistics are informative, they don't capture the full scope of how the team functions collectively. Passing, cutting, communication, and spatial awareness are all contributing factors that can make the difference between a close win and a narrow loss. The Celtics have shown that they are building cohesion, with players understanding their roles and supporting one another even when mistakes occur. It's a dynamic that develops over time, and the evidence suggests that Boston is moving in the right direction. The combination of high-level individual talent, role-player contributions, and strategic coaching creates a framework where the team can not only compete, but also adapt and thrive in high-stakes situations. Overall, the trajectory for the Celtics is promising, and the incremental improvements we've seen from players stepping into new roles, learning to adjust under pressure, and maintaining focus even when shots aren't falling highlight a team that is growing stronger by the week. The blend of star power, emerging talent, and process-oriented execution sets the stage for a competitive season. As each player continues to refine their game and the coaching staff continues to optimize rotations and strategies, Boston is positioning itself not just for wins, but for sustained success deeper into the season and, ultimately, in the playoffs. Every subtle improvement, every learning moment, every high-pressure execution adds to the larger picture of what the Celtics are becoming. A team capable of competing at the highest level, resilient under pressure, and disciplined in its approach to the game. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers are swirling through the league after a surge of reports suggested that Rudy Gobert, the towering defensive specialist long known as a one-man barricade in the paint, has been announced by the Boston Celtics. The news hasn't yet settled, but the buzz around the move is already electrifying front offices, locker rooms, and fan forums alike. If the murmurs hold true, the Celtics may have just added a new dimension to their identity, one built on shutting down the rim with brutal efficiency. According to people close to the team, Gobert arrived in Boston with quiet confidence and a clear message. He intends to seal off the basket like a vault. His reputation precedes him. Long arms, impeccable timing, and that uncanny ability to alter shots without even touching the ball. The Celtics, known recently for reshaping their roster with aggressive precision, may see him as the final piece to reinforce their defensive spine. For many around the league, the idea of Gobert anchoring an already disciplined squad is enough to stir discomfort. Insiders hint at long conversations behind closed doors, where Gobert reportedly expressed excitement about aligning his defensive instincts with Boston story culture. There's speculation that this union wasn't born overnight. Some believe the Celtics have been monitoring him for far longer than anyone realized. The idea of pairing his interior dominance with the team's perimeter intensity is causing analysts to raise eyebrows and rivals to rethink their playbooks. Fans, meanwhile, are split between disbelief and exhilaration. Could this be the move that pushes Boston's ambitions into overdrive? Social media threads have exploded with predictions, mock lineups, and bold declarations about how opponents may hesitate to even attempt a drive. No official stat lines, no highlight reels, just the rumble of something big forming in the atmosphere. What's clear is that if Gobert truly intends to close the rim, as rumored, the league might soon feel the chill of a new defensive era settling over Boston. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.